Today I'm going to be talking about how to protect our children offline and online. As a mom of 7 in 2023, you know how many things are available for our children online. You also know that the old school ways of predators still exist. Just want to give y'all some trigger warnings. My story does not have all bright spots. It has a lot of bright spots, but I'm just going to share raw and real with y'all today. When I was 11 years old, we moved, or actually 10 years old, we moved to a small town outside of Houston. And I was excited to be a part of a church, wanted to make friends really badly, went to a church, got involved in a youth group. In that youth group, I started to notice that there was a very handsome youth pastor, an adult. I'm 11, he's an adult. As we are going to volleyball games and conferences, he starts to take everybody home in his car. Drops off one person, drops off another, drops off another. I'm last. Hey, let's go drive around. Let's talk. As you know, if y'all have any teenagers, that the experience of a teenager is already volatile, right? Suddenly you've got puberty, you're wanting attention, you've got a dad figure that's like, whoa, between the attitude and the boobs, I don't know where I belong anymore. And so there was just kind of this tension between me and my dad. When we would go on these long drives, he would exploit that lack of attention there. He would say, oh, tell me about your dad. Oh, tell me about that. Oh, that's so sad. I'm so sad for you. That shouldn't happen to you. What I didn't realize at the time was something that he was doing called grooming. He was taking advantage of somebody who naturally wanted love. And it's also very normal for a young girl to think her youth pastor is cute. And what's not normal is a youth pastor taking advantage of it. After a while, he started making moves that I would not have normally made because I'm 11. I'm still watching Muppet Babies at this time. What led to this nights out driving around, a little making out, a little inappropriate touching, led to one particular night where he came to my house and just God really intervened, honestly. I got a call. He said, come over, because we had 2 particular residences. And so I went into the second residence and had, for some reason, left the door open, the main residence door open. My dad's kind of a stickler for locks. He came down, checking locks, wondering, why is this door open? Comes to find us completely naked in the other residence. What happened then was kind of the start of just an absolute nightmare for me. Because not only did he probably not react the most appropriately, and as a mom, I understand that you didn't expect to walk in and see your not even teenage daughter completely naked with an adult man. And so he didn't react appropriately, and I was shamed at that point that it was my fault, which no one at that point told me that it wasn't my fault. A couple days happened, and my mom drugged me to the church to say, she was like, this is not right. Something needs to be done. The church leaders, he's a staff member on church, they need to know about it. It's a small town. The moment we walk into the church, they say, we already know what happened. We believe that she seduced him. And I'm sitting there watching my mom fight for what's right. And I'm faced with these people who, again, have blamed me for my own abuse. And so after that, I went into a deep depression. My mom often says, I felt like I had to scoop you off the ground with a pancake spatula. What led to just kind of this place of, I'm not enough. I've been rejected not only by my dad, I've been rejected by this man who I thought really cared about me, and realized that he was just using me along with several other girls in the church at that time. When we walked out of the church, she goes, we're gonna go to the cops. And I said, please, Mama, I don't wanna go to the cops. Please, I just wanna bury it. I don't wanna do this anymore. It's a small town. Let's just drop it. It's the 1990s. My mom, there's no TikTok. There's no one telling you that this is how you should respond. There's no internet to look things up. This is not talked about. I one day just decided to take matters into my own hands. This blackness that I felt inside of me and the insecurity in my own body and my own self, I started to become bulimic. What I now know is that the blackness inside of me, I was trying to physically remove. And we all know that that's impossible without Jesus. What led from becoming bulimic at 12 years old became me becoming basically 100 pounds. I, fortunately, I don't know how you want to look at it, was a top achiever. So no one could tell. I went into high school. I lettered in track my freshman year. I was running with varsity, pencil thin, super fast, went and was making straight A's, graduated in 3 years from high school because I just couldn't wait to get out of this small town where all of this awful stuff had happened. During that time, I also was starting to use drugs. They were getting harder and harder and harder. It started with LSD to pot, LSD, cocaine, and then I started selling. There was a couple of instances where we got really close from getting in trouble with the law. And luckily, someone actually took the rap from me, and because I had so much drugs that he already had a criminal record and he didn't want me to have to deal with that. I moved to Austin and to go to school for journalism. And during that time, I was introduced to heroin. And what was once just kind of a weekly obsession with this new drug that kind of took all your cares away became a daily obsession. To the point that the person that introduced me was so upset that he had introduced me because he had already beat heroin and then now was back in it and knew how bad it was to be overcome by this drug. At the time, I was writing a book because I always wanted to be a writer. That's what I wanted to be since I was a little girl. That book kind of had this apocalyptic thread. I had had a Bible. I had gotten saved at 9, right when we moved to that small town, got baptized, but I had left it at home. That was my last. I knew Jesus loved me. I never blamed God for what happened to me. I knew that man was man and that was him, but it was kind of like this place where after that happened, we left the church and never went back. And our family kind of disintegrated after that. And so I decided to pop a hit of X, get into a car, because that's what you do when you pop a hit of X, apparently, and drive around. And suddenly I had this thought, I'm going to go into a church. They have Bibles. They're like kind of obligated to give me one for free. I'm going to go in. What was funny about the incident is I am dressed literally like the bride of Satan. I have a big bouffant tutu, black tutu, a black leather bodice, and I've taken part of the tutu, cut it out, and made a veil, blood red lipstick. I walk into this church, and these two little old ladies in the middle of the day see the bride of Satan walk in, and they are asking, how could I help you? And I said, I need a Bible. They both go into the back, for safety measures, to go get the Bible. And I'm guessing they prayed. I'm sure a ton of people that knew me at that time were praying hard because they knew that something was not okay with me. They came out, handed me a Bible, but during the time that they had been in the back, I had gone up to the chapel doors and I had shook them and they were locked. And I thought, what kind of church locks their chapel? And so I said, can you please let me into the chapel? And they were very suspicious. They were like, why do you need to go into the chapel? To sacrifice someone? And I was like, from the inside of me, roared up this, I need to pray. The moment that I walked in that chapel, they had this beautiful crucifix, wooden crucifix of Jesus. I knew that I was home. It's like the second verse in the Amazing Grace story or song that says, the moment that my sins were revealed, I knew that my fears were relieved and that I had been saved and that everything was under the blood and feet of Jesus. And from that moment on, my life took an amazing turn. The Bible says that those who are in a great darkness will see a great light. And it was a great light. Now, mind you, I'm in Austin, Texas. I'm living in the pot-smoking capital of the world. And I walk into all these little mom and pop coffee shops and I'm trying to tell them about Jesus. And everybody's like, can you just please take your latte and leave? And I'm like, no, not that church Jesus, not that Jesus. I'm talking about this one that met me in my darkest hour. No one preached to me. It was just the Holy Spirit that had led me there. And so they still didn't want to hear. So I ended up spending about 2 hours on the hillside with some homeless guy talking about Jesus, because he got it. Because he lived every day seeing the provision of Jesus in his life. As you have 7 kids, you're just trying so bad to protect them. That's all you want to do. And I know my mom wanted to do that, my dad wanted to do that, and we all do it so imperfectly. But I also know that even when you do it imperfectly, God is still on the throne. If your child is ever raped, if you've been ever raped or molested or anything like that, there's still hope. One of my closest family members was violently assaulted by someone that we trusted in our family. And APD said it was one of the worst cases they had seen in a long time. I stand here because I want to warn and equip you moms to know how to take measures to make sure that your children are protected off and online. Because in this world where we have Roblox, where we have YouTube, where we have child predators who are on the dark web, we have AI now, which is a whole new scary sect of sexual exploitation. We need to know how to equip ourselves so that we can be powerhouses and make sure that the next generation does not live out the trauma that we lived out. Because if you think about it, 1 in 4 women have been sexually abused, 1 in 9 men. That statistic has been around a really long time. That means your mothers and your fathers, 1 of 9 of your fathers, 1 in 4 of each of your moms, has parented you out of a place of abuse. And I want to stop that statistic from happening. And the only way we can do that is by spreading awareness. That is because predators pop up by the millions. They are not going away, and they're just getting worse, and they're getting more and more clever with the internet. And so we need to be super aware. One of the stories that I want to tell you actually just recently happened to me. And even if you take all the measures in the world, there are still potential pitfalls that you won't see. And so I don't want to come here thinking like, oh, it's so hopeless, it's so scary out there. I'm really just trying to equip you to know that even if your child does get molested, no, God forbid, there's still hope. But even if you're an imperfect parent, there's still prayer. I cannot tell you how many times that my children have been protected because I have been praying, and we've been praying for them. My parents have been praying, their aunts have been praying. Sunday night, what happened was my daughter, 12 years old, she is across the street mowing the neighbor's lawn. The neighbor's a hairstylist, nice woman, just moved in. Motorcycle guy comes by once, comes by twice. She's mowing, she's 12. Flat as a board, looks like a little tomboy, under 5 foot. And she goes in, doesn't think anything of it, just thinks he's on it's like not a motorcycle, it's like a motorbike. So it looks like, yeah, he's just like riding the neighborhood. He must live in this neighborhood. She goes in, and my husband comes home and sees the lawnmower and says, oh, I'm gonna go retrieve them. And she's obviously done, it's mowed, I'm gonna go get it. He goes to the motorcycle, and there is a note. And it says, what's a pretty girl like you mowing the lawn? What's a pretty lady like you, is what it said, with his name and a phone number. And my husband was like, what is this? My daughter walks out, and she goes, well, maybe it's this guy, he kept riding by. Maybe it's a guy. At the exact same time, he rides by again. 4th time. My husband flags him down and says, what are you doing? She's 12, this guy's 40. He goes, oh man, sorry dude, sorry, thought she was 25. You're like, you thought she was 25? She literally looks, her body, as beautiful as she is, her body is still a little girl's body. There's no way you could have mistaken her body for a 25 years old body. He's like, dude, you cannot be doing that. And my daughter at that time, we're all super upset. She comes to me at night, and she cannot sleep in her own bed because she is petrified that he's gonna come in and kidnap her. The damage that people can do to even cursory, didn't even touch her, is so traumatic. And it makes us, we should be able to trust the people around us. We should be able to trust the people that we love most, that are entrusted to take care of us. That is an absolute right for us females to walk around. and feel safe. But because we live in a fallen world, that has been completely violated. I'm gonna show this clip. This clip's about 10 minutes long. It's super powerful. Through pageantry, I've been able to do more public speaking, tell my story, show up in places that are fighting trafficking, fighting sexploitation online. And it's just been such an honor, and this is one of the stories that we were shown. A lot of times people think it's just girls, just young girls. It's just the most innocent, the people that don't know. But our teenagers are probably some of the most vulnerable people. 12 really is the average age of sexual abuse.
Yeah, my name is Brian Montgomery. I'm here today to kind of tell you the story of our family and a tragedy that occurred. Talk about my son, Walker Montgomery. Walker's 16 years old. We are a very close family. We were always together. We hunted and fished together. Walker developed this intense passion for football. If I could describe Walker, it would really be work ethic. If he came into a room and met you, he would walk straight up to you and shake your hand and tell you his name and look you straight in the eyes. He was that kind of kid. But all those strengths really became a weakness to Walker on the night of this tragedy. Walker had come home from school, worked out. Bennett and I had gone hunting that afternoon. We'd gone bow hunting for deer on our farm. We had supper together as a family. Just a very normal night. I remember having a conversation that night around the table. We were talking about Walker had just gotten his driver's license, so we were kind of picking at him because he wanted to put big tires on it. And he's a teenager, right? My wife put Walker to bed and Bennett to bed that night. Just an ordinary night. Prayed with them, put them both to bed, and everything seemed perfectly normal. But around midnight, Walker received a message on his telephone from across Instagram, through the messaging portion of Instagram. Looked very normal, looked very innocent, and the message was just something like, "Hey, what's up?" Walker answered it and said not much, just hanging out. And the conversation was, again, very normal. Like you play football, how's school going, where do you go to school, where do you go to school? What you would think of as just a normal teenage conversation, nothing out of the way, no issues at all. Well, that led to this person convincing Walker to open a video chat to have a sexual encounter over the Instagram video portions. And Walker didn't know it, but the whole time he was being recorded. He was being recorded by another device they had on the other side. As soon as that encounter was over with, they came right back to Walker and said, "Hey, we've got this video of you, and if you don't pay us $1,000, we're going to send it to everybody that is on your Instagram list." And I even further can't imagine that stress of a 16-year-old boy who's still trying to figure out his way and his place and all the things that come along with that pressure. In an instant, Walker's life was being really threatened, because the conversation went very much like that. I mean, these people were telling Walker, "Hey, your life's over. Everything that you love, everything you care about is gone. It's done. Nobody's going to love you." And so all those conversations, they just continued to build this mountain in front of Walker, and telling him if he didn't pay them, that they were going to send it to everybody. And Walker's begging them to stop, begging them to quit, and of course they wouldn't. Eventually they get to the point where they're sending Walker screenshots of their side, of the messaging sides, showing that they're sending those pictures, those videos out to his friends. And that continued, and as far as Walker knew, that was being sent. But the reality is that it wasn't. Nobody that we know of received any of those videos, but Walker thought they were. They wanted the money. They said, "Steal it from your mom and dad." Walker said, "I can't do that." Just continues to mount this pressure, and eventually they show Walker where they've sent the video to his mom, and Walker responds, "I'm just going to kill myself." Their response was, "Go ahead, because you're already dead anyway." That conversation lasted about 2 hours. Started about midnight, like around 2 o'clock in the morning. At some point during the night, Walker goes into my office and goes into my safe, which he had the combination to because of our adventures, in the woods, always hunting together. And he went in there and got a handgun and went back up to his bedroom. At some point during the morning hours, took his own life. The question would automatically be, what would lead to this kind of tragedy? One of the things that I talk about, and I've talked about a lot, is the aspect of teens having access to their phones during the night or in private places. we were looking at Walker's phone and trying to understand what was going on. Was there some depression that we didn't know about? Was some mental illness? And we don't see any of those factors in Walker's communication at all. The only thing that we found was some pornography use. But I believe the current statistic is about 87% of men have looked at pornography in the past year, and 47 or 8% look at it on a regular basis. When our generation, it didn't lead to these types of problems. But in this case, it did. I believe Walker saw this as just one step further into that world. He was a 16-year-old boy with a healthy sex drive. If you're a man, you can relate to that. This is happening on a systematic scale that we really can't imagine. One of the reasons we're in this situation is because we didn't know. You generally don't protect yourself from something you don't know about. And so with that mindset, I know that if we would have known that, we would have done something about it. But I think it's a natural instinct to want to keep this private. It's embarrassing. At the core of why Walker did what he did is because of how he anticipated people reacting to him, right? So the other side of that is the culture we live in. How do we embrace people that make a mistake? What I would have, if Walker would have knocked on my door that night, I'd have said, Walker, we're going to figure it out. We love you. You didn't make any mistakes that I haven't made. And there's not an adult or kid that can say they're without blame or without problems. We've all made mistakes. And so, as a parent, I want parents to hear that if your kid comes to you and you know about this, count that as a win. You've won. You've won the fight. Because once you understand the problem, you can fix it. You can solve problems you know about. You can't solve problems you don't know about. This deal with Walker occurred in one night. He went to bed perfectly healthy, perfectly happy. And we didn't get to see parents and teens and teachers, law enforcement, whoever is interested in this conversation. I guess what I would really want them to think through is, where do we go from here? And what I would really want to encourage people to understand is that in our society, we've crossed a line. A lot of us don't know we've crossed the line. I didn't know we had crossed the line. The line is that we've got a really dangerous tool in the hands of kids that can't handle their responsibility. And change is hard. Change means that you ask your kids, I want to take the phone tonight. It's going to my room and we're going to start a process of accountability. That's change, and that's hard, because if you're talking about a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid that may not even, probably not paying their own phone bill, but they're used to that freedom, it's a difficult conversation for parents to have. Teens, I would tell you, let your parents provide that oversight. Let them help you. They love you. They don't want anything to happen to you. There's nobody with more vested interest in your future than your parents. And so this collaboration of parents and kids and letting that guard down, let's figure out how to move forward with that change and the understanding of the threat that we're against. It's real. My family is proof that it's real. And I don't want that to happen to anybody else. We believe that God is going to achieve his purposes through this, and that Walker's life and death will be used by him. We went to bed that night thinking the next day was going to be perfectly normal. Something I talk about pretty regular is the next morning we were on the couch and crying and upset and didn't know what to do. And Bennett, Walker's brother, looked at me and said, Daddy, this was just supposed to be another normal day. And we think about that, and we expect every day we wake up it's going to be another normal day. We woke up today and we thought, this is going to be just like yesterday. But it's not. We don't know when tomorrow's coming to where our lives are going to be turned completely upside down. And time is really important in this space because it moves quick. And the reality that Walker could go to bed healthy and not wake up the next morning is it's unimaginable. And so what I'm asking is to use whatever influence you have today to try to make a difference. If that's with a legislator, if that's with your social media platform, if that's just what you telling a friend with what's going on in this world, it's really important, because knowledge changes everything. If Walker could have just known, if Walker could have just had an idea, I believe it would have changed the whole trajectory of his life.
A powerful video, unfortunately. If you would like that video, it is located at the Mississippi DPS.gov. Human trafficking is the backslash for that. If you would like to show your husbands or anything like that, or share with other people, it's such a heartbreaking story that could have been prevented. And the world that you and I grew up in is vastly different than the world our children will grow up in. And I don't know how many of you have small children. I still have small children. The ages of my children run from 19, fully adult, living out of the house, to 5 years old. Even from when she was my first baby, we were still watching DVDs. We were still getting Netflix in the mail, or Redbox in the mail. And the things that she's had to battle versus the things that I'm going to have to continue to battle with my 5-year-old are so different. They have devices at way younger age than my daughter ever did. I think my daughter may have been 14 or 12, really old. And only because she needed to babysit, she was able to text us. What really becomes a problem is when, after you've given them a device, and then for us, because we have 7, we don't pay for their cell phone bill, they pay for their own. And so saying, hey, I'm gonna take your phone at night, it's harder because they're paying for it, but you're still the parent. And if anything I can equip you to remember is that you are the parent. They can have, 7 billion people in this world? They can have 699,999 billion friends, but they only have one mom, and you're it. And they need you not to be a friend. They need you to tell them the hard things. I'm very open with my kids. They know my story of abuse. They've watched this video because I was like, I am not taking any chances. I'd rather scare you a little bit and protect you a lot. And I've definitely done it imperfectly. My oldest was fearful to walk to the mailbox. Now, after Sunday's incident, maybe she should have been. Some of the things that I can say that you should definitely do is, and I'm not going to tell you to not give them a device. I don't know definitely. If you can do that, don't give them a device. And don't give them a device until you, the latest you can. Be like my friend who convinced her child that raisins were a dessert until she was 8. All right? You can do that, more power to you. But I know that most of us already have Kindles. We already have Fire tablets. They're already looking at kids' YouTube. There are different things that you can do online. You can just be aware. That's the biggest thing. And like what he was saying is open up the conversation. That itself is probably one of the most powerful things. It's said often that those who are prepared are usually spared. It doesn't matter how young your kids are. You can say, hey babe, has anybody touched your TT? You know it's not okay if they touch your pee-pee or your butt, and you're not allowed to touch anybody's butt. You can use child-friendly language to make sure that they know. And say, if somebody says, don't tell anybody, tell me, unless it's a birthday party, right? Because secrecy is where darkness breeds. And so allowing them and opening that conversation early allows you to open that conversation continually, and then all of a sudden they're teenagers telling you things you don't really want to hear about how they're feeling sexually or what's going on. But that means that they trust you, that they are willing to be vulnerable with you. And like you said, when they've been vulnerable with you, you've won. Okay, because keeping the hearts of our children close-knit to ours is one of our top priorities. We're not putting on facades. There's no use in, you being the parent and them being the kid all the time. Open up some channels of communication, number one. And definitely offline, be careful with who you let kids spend the night. Grandma, grandpa, Uncle Buck, I don't care who it is, be careful. Trust your instinct. If something is funky, if you know that husband looks at porn, absolutely not, right? But that is a no-go. And if if there's just something that is not right, something just doesn't, it's actually a police term. Something just doesn't look right. Trust your gut. That's why you have it. You have discernment from the Holy Spirit, and you've been deemed and anointed to be their parent and their protector. Another thing is to make sure that you hang around people and you let them hang around people that you approve of. It's okay to say, I don't like that kid. I don't like those parents. Like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna offend them? Rather be offended, all right? I am sorry, your lifestyle is not how I want it to be. You just say, no, that's not a good idea. Or why don't they come over here? If there's slumber parties, I always say, I will absolutely come pick you up at 1 a.m. And I always tell them, nothing good happens after midnight. conversations get weird. You wake up at 9, you're kind of wondering when my mom's gonna pick me up because now I'm in that weird place where, it's just, there's no reason. And if they wanna go for breakfast, I'll take them back, which means a lot of sacrifice on your own part. And when you are at Christmas and Thanksgiving, and especially if there's alcohol involved, make sure that you're just checking. That was probably one of the number one things that saved my daughter from being taken advantage of. Because every single time when I was at this particular person's house, I would be like, where you at? Oh, okay. So know the characteristics of a predator. Normal men love children, but they don't want to really hang out with them, right? You're like, I like you, sit on my lap, hug, okay, go on and play. That is normal man behavior. My husband loves children. He'll scoop your little girl up and hold her for a little bit, and so there's some that that are a little bit more kid. I mean, he's got 7 kids. I mean, he's used to holding babies and stuff like that. Misses what they were like. But he eventually puts them down and goes, okay, I'm an adult. You go do your thing, right? So don't get weird about the person that's like just a little bit more friendly to the kids. Not everybody is a predator, right? But there's the ones that are like, oh, I'm gonna rent a bouncy house, or I'm gonna do this thing that really puts me around children, right? And it's not just one time. I mean, renting a bouncy house is not bad, but constantly. You're just like constantly and the presents are weirdly overpriced. There's just little ways that groomers can get into the heart, especially of a young child, that just starts to earn that trust. This particular family member would always offer, I'll take care of your kids. You just bring them over. He had a wife. He had daughters of his own, right? Of course, they're gonna play with his kids. But it was always him offering, I'll take the kids. No, you don't have to pay me, it's free, I'm fine. And so they also will do things that make them look good in the community. One of the hardest things to swallow about Sunday's incident is when I went to look at this man's Facebook profile. I cannot tell you how many times he posted about him at the church, him with community leaders, him with government officials, him donating to whatever fund that was, St. Jude, something like that. I mean, every single one of his Facebook posts, none of them were normal Facebook posts. They were all, look how wonderful I am in the community. So guess what? When I wanted to post something on my neighborhood HOA about it, I was like, well, I can't do that. He's the neighborhood hero. He cleans up the brush. He's at the playground. He sets up the Santa Claus thing every Christmas, right? I mean, and he may not be a predator. I mean, that's just what I want to say that, but it's walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. I'm gonna call it a duck, all right? And I'm gonna be suspicious. And then now that I know what I know about predators, it's like everything just starts lining up. Again, I mean, he may not. He maybe maybe he was just riding his bike and has really bad vision. But be aware that it's youth pastors, it's husbands, it's grandfathers, it's uncles that you swear that no absolutely way that they would do that. And that's why you have to just be constantly vigilant and trust your gut. Some of the things that you can do also online is when they're playing Roblox, disable chat on any, and my kids love Roblox. And we're still, jury's still out on whether we're gonna continue it because it's gotten really bad lately. But disable chat. My kids know you are not allowed to add anybody on Facebook, because some of them have Facebooks and Instagrams, that you don't know in real life. You have to know them IRL, and you cannot have chats with them. I mean, they have chats. The older ones, they can chat with their friends. But usually what they do is just set up their phone on FaceTime and be on the computer, and they can do it that way. That way they're chatting back and forth with whatever little group that they have. That's a lot safer. If you hear your children talk about Discord, be real careful. Discord is an application that's added on to Roblox that is now, it's gotten, even the people that love Roblox are saying it's a child predator's dream. There's actually entire YouTube channels dedicated to ousting people that are exploiting teenagers, and they'll flip on the screen at the end and be like, and we gotcha, because it's gotten so bad. And take those phones away at night. They don't need to be on the phones. And I know that they say, they want, oh, I've got my alarm clock and stuff like that. You can do things on your router that will allow them to have their phone but no internet access, especially if the kids don't have cell phone service. The ones with cell phone service, it's you have a little bit harder. So there are applications like Bark. There's the Gab phone, which is, you can kind of shut all that down. There's Covenant Eyes, which will scan what's being said and kind of will even report if there's any sexual explicit images in your phone or being texted to them. And also realize that we do live, and this is what was one of the things that was said, and it's a hard pill to swallow, we do live in a world where a lot of their sexual exploration is online. We, when we were kids, everything was offline. The way that we explored our sexuality, the inappropriate things we did behind closed doors at church lock-ins or whatever, was done a lot in person. Now a lot of that is done by sending sexual explicit photos to each other. Not that that's okay, but just know that that's part of the atmosphere that we're living in today. And so when you find those things out, don't shame them. Tell them, I get it, been there, done that, or not done that maybe. But, let's talk about it. I think the biggest thing is when a child comes up to you and admits something that they've done, the first thing is always acceptance. Talk about the other stuff later. Talk about what you should have done and what's better to do later. Giving them that love and acceptance first so that they know that they're safe, because they need to find safety continually in you, that it's okay to come talk all their junk. Because you go to the Father and you say, oh my gosh, look what I did. And you don't immediately get condemnation. You get acceptance, love, and grace, because nothing's knocking him off his throne. Nothing's knocking you off your throne as a parent. You're still the parent, you're still in control, and you still have power, even though things have happened. I don't want to leave it on this sad note. I want to talk a little bit about how my story has evolved. So I went from being molested, of course, then becoming Christian, have 7 kids. We homeschool our 7 kids. We run a super successful vintage furniture business, and did not expect that success, because I had gone from blogging, trying to be a speaker, writer. I had 50,000 followers, 4,000 email subscribers, 10 books on Amazon, but zero money in the bank. And so somewhere around 2020, right before 2020 hit, we switched to vintage furniture, to start picking up stuff on the side of the road, selling it on Facebook Marketplace, paid $10,000 off of debt, and turned it into a 6-figure business. And so through my business success, I started being on podcasts. People want to hear about how you turn 6 figures as a mom of 7 who homeschools and does it on the side. And during that time, I'm kind of like, I just sell vintage furniture. I don't want to pick up this speaking thing. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not a writer. I'm not a blogger. I'm head down. I just sell vintage. And what the amazing thing is that I've reached more people in the Austin area for Jesus than I ever could have with a blog. I'm walking in, it's Austin. We got the heathens and all the people that live here, and God love them, but they sure do love vintage furniture. And they are letting me into the most sacred places of their life, their house. And these pieces of furniture are prayed over. I talk to them, I accept them. They all have different lifestyles that I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm here and I'm just serving them as a community. And so one day I hear this guy, his name is Ryan Leake, on the Bible app, and somewhere in the little sermonette that he had, something switched, and suddenly I was like, oh my gosh, he just spoke to my soul. I don't know who this guy is. I'm gonna have to look him up. And so I looked him up. I was like, ooh, I like him. And real quickly, I looked up his website, and he had a speaker conference. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds cool. I like that. But the ticket is $1,000. Well, there's a $500 ticket, $1,000 ticket, and a $1,500. I used to go to a lot of blog conferences. I was always broke, so I always bought the $500 ticket. I really wanted the $1,000 ticket because it had dinner. And I know now, it's always who you know. It's not what you know. There's a lot of dumb people in really high places. And so I said, God, okay, if you want me to go, you got to prove it. However much money I make today, I already made quota, whatever much money I'm going to go. Within 2 hours, I made $1,000. So I bought the $1,000 ticket. It comes with a headshot. I don't need a headshot. I don't do that anymore. And then I went to the conference, met this girl, and she goes, I bought the $1,500 $1,500 ticket. It comes with a speaker reel. Speaker reel is like when you look really cool, like MTV style speaker. I don't need a speaker reel, but I had just given a speech at Creative Woman and decided, okay, I'm gonna just kind of remodify it. And within 30 minutes, I have makeup on, a dress, and I give a speech. And I have this beautiful speaker reels. But I come home, and the first thing I am doing is going to this women's conference. And I mean, there were some things happened during that time when I went to the speakers conference. I was a mess. I was emotionally, some things had happened with my family. I was crying all the way to Dallas, crying all the way back. Did not want to have a Jesus moment right after this. I was just like, God, I know you're working. I'm not really sure how, but I don't want to go to this women's conference. Thought I was out the clear because I didn't go to Friday. I thought it was just a Friday event. She goes, oh no, by the way, there's a Saturday morning one. And I was like, okay. So my friend convinced me to go, even though I don't want to go. And I hear Mrs. America speak. And she says something, you know, and I'm thinking, I'm ex-roller derby, so like broken nose, everything. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. But God bless. She's so sweet. She's so cute. Miss America, Miss America. She's real sweet, real powerful. She said something that struck me, and she said, I am able to go into schools and speak in places that you cannot talk about Jesus. You're not allowed by the state. And I can say anything I want. But okay, get on the phone. I was like, you know, I'll do this later. The next week, I go to a business networking thing. Mrs. Universe is speaking. I don't know about you, but I don't think I've ever heard any Mrs. Anybody speak ever in my entire life, much less 2 in 2 weeks. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get on the website again, check it out. And this headshot that I didn't think I need ends up being the headshot I send in to become Mrs. Williamson County. I am doing all this, and I get on a podcast, and the lady, it's a trauma podcast, and I'm telling my story of abuse, and she stops me in the middle of the podcast when I tell them that the church blamed me for my abuse, and she says, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that happened. And it just, for the first time, it just hit me. My face got red. I tried to keep bumbling on through my story, but it just hit me so hard, and I was just like, I have never mourned for that little girl that was blamed. The next day, I am riding in my car, beautiful sunny day, got the worship music on, and all of a sudden that same moment, that same sorrow touches my heart. But instead of for myself, it's for all the other women and girls out there that feel the shame of being blamed for their own abuse. And that's when God said, that's what I want you to speak about. That's the platform for your pageantry, not just for your pageantry, forever. And so what was once my tragedy has now become my success story. Interestingly, my mission statement of life is to set the captives free and bring light to the darkness. And as I'm at a retreat a few weeks later, this woman gives me a vision. She says, I see you, and you're in a dark tunnel, and you're just radiating light, which is interesting because my name actually means light. And she says, you're just flipping locks, and you're just taking the locks off the gates, and women are just following behind you. And what the cool thing is, when I continue to think about that vision, is I light a way, but they are their own lights, and they can share their story, and they can empower others. And just like you can share your story, you can share this story. You can be a beacon of hope, a watchtower for other people, so that we can continue to bring lightness. Because when one candle is lit and lights another candle, eventually the whole room is lit, and darkness cannot overcome light. And so through all of this, I didn't even place in the top 12 for Mrs. Texas. That's a whole another story of overcoming that I had. But what I'm so thankful, every single time I'm just like, thank you, Lord. Thank you, I didn't make it. Thank you, I didn't make it. Because I am on a path, a very specific path to setting the captives free that only I can walk. And so after the pageant, I call my dad, because we're broke, right? We've spent, we spent the money that we got and maybe a little bit more than we should have. And it was an awful month with furniture because it was South by Southwest and spring break. No one was buying furniture. And we're going to have to figure out how to pay rent. I called my dad and said, hey, you have a tech company. Can I do some work for you? You don't have an Instagram. And I'm a social media expert. So he said, sure, and pays me a check, and I'm able to pay my rent. What happened then was nothing short of a miracle. They had been finding problems with investors funding the company. It's a crime prevention app. They've been in Dallas Police Department since 2009. It's tons of success. Felons, 90 kilos of cocaine, 14 felons, $150,000 in one singular bust using the app. That was in Harris County. It was used during the sniper event in Dallas in 2016. Some really amazing successes. I just need to make money. That's all I'm thinking. But because this newfound social media understanding comes in, the investors said, okay, we're finally gonna throw that money. Well, so now I'm stuck because I can't leave. They put money in because I'm there and I'm offering my expertise in the social media realm and marketing. And so, but little did I know is that was part of God's plan. And so now what I'm doing is talking to, again, people that I am not qualified to talk to. I mean, I'm a journalism student, I'm a smart girl, I've done really amazing things, but I am talking to senators, I am talking to the directors of FBIs, I am talking and hanging around the same people that are working directly with Tim Ballard from Sound of Freedom. And so God has put me in a path that right now is just, I'm still walking it. Doors are still opening, and I'm able to continue. And every time, it's just the craziest thing. I mean, these are people that are way up, and I'm just thinking I'm little old me, and I'm just telling my story. I'm just telling my story of how I was an overcomer, and this is why I'm so passionate about what I do with this crime prevention app, because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And they're like, oh my gosh, you should talk to this person who's like the head of National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They're like, I have a connection. I'm gonna do a soft introduction via email. And I can just see God's hand, that all the no's that I experienced, and my heart really is young moms, because I remember I wanted to do really, really big things for a really long time. And I was 14 years breastfeeding and pregnant and nursing and all the things, right? So I know what it's like to feel like, Lord, when are you gonna use me? Got all these little people hanging on me, and I can't do all the things I really want. I was feeling I always feel like I'm almost naked. I almost made it big in blogging. I almost, I do all these things. I do all these things with excellence. And he told me, you're not an almost. You're just not yet. And so sometimes God is like, that you're that bull behind the doors, and you feel like all this energy to do all these things, but you've got all these little people who are wanting you to take care, to give them peanut butter and jelly. And I just want to encourage you that you're setting a foundation that is so powerful. You've heard the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And that you are doing the best and biggest job. Because at the end of the day, if I have set the captives free and brought light to the darkness, but my children are still in darkness, I have failed. And so don't ever discount the day of small beginnings. Don't ever discount that you're stuck at home and you're changing poopy diapers and crayon is on the wall and tears are coming down and your boobs are leaking milk, because it's okay. These are all steps, one foot in front of the other. Just follow those breadcrumbs and just know that big things are ahead. And if you have a heart, God is putting you exactly where you need to be, even when you don't know it.